example of that. Think about the wood oils if you're familiar with something like cedar wood or sandalwood. And think about some of the root oils like spikenard or ginger if you're familiar with those. These essential oils contain very heavy molecules. They're like the black circles in this picture. And they help hold on to the other molecules and keep them from flashing off quite as quickly. So they actually last on the skin or on a surface a lot longer. Now, that can be a very interesting thing when it comes to having a blend. And that explains why if you were to smell orange oil and then you were to mix orange oil with a heavier oil like ginger, the aroma would be different because we're changing the way those molecules are allowed to go up into the air and be volatiles. Next slide, please. So the result of that is that we have different, what we call notes when it comes to essential oil blends. And these you might hear described in perfumes. There's something called a top note or a head note. These are the ones that flash off very quickly. You smell them first when you smell a blend. They're the most volatile. These are things like citruses, grapefruit, lemon, and lime and orange. And some of the herbs like basil and coriander. They're very bright and they help give you that first impression of an aroma from a blend. And these typically last anywhere from just a few minutes to a half hour if you were to put them on a surface or on your skin. Next are the middle notes, or sometimes called heart notes. These help give the blend some body and some character. And these are complex. They transform over time. So some of these are a little bit heavier, and that goes back to the idea of the synergy of what happens when the essential oil components are working together. So some of these middle notes we typically will find in lavender and rosemary and lemongrass and geranium. If you think about those aromas, they're a little bit stronger than those top notes and they last a little bit longer, sometimes several hours. And finally, there are base notes. These are the longest lasting and they are kind of the scaffolding, the foundation upon which the aroma is built. Now, these are the ones that tend to alter how the other molecules behave. Those little black circles from the picture we just looked at. Sometimes they hang on to the other molecules and keep them from evaporating quite so quickly. And again, these base notes, they stick around for a very long time. Now, this is something that you might find in sandalwood or patchouli, myrrh and vetiver, even cinnamon. I had a story when I was first working at doTERRA. I was doing some blends in my lab and I accidentally spilled some patchouli oil onto my lab notebook and stained the pages. And I wiped it off as best I could. But still, 4 years later, when I open that lab notebook, I can still smell the patchouli. So these base notes, these large molecules, they last a very long time. And they're important in a blend because they really can give it some character and some staying power. So synergy, next slide please. The essential oil components are working together in ways that complement each other, that change the way the blend behaves, and they become more than the sum of their parts. If I were to blend 3 essential oils together, the resulting blend would be more than just the individual oils themselves. It would change. It would change how my brain and my body reacts to it. So we form these complex relationships when we blend essential oils. And that is one of the important reasons that we are talking about blends. Okay, so let's talk about chemistry for just a minute. I won't go in too much depth because I know not everyone is interested in chemistry, but it is a very important part of how we create the doTERRA essential oil blends and how you can learn to create your own blends for various health needs or various aromas. This is a picture of the doTERRA chemistry wheel, and it talks about ways to understand the different chemical components of the essential oils and some of the effects that they could have for our bodies. So this is a picture of the sesquiterpene backbone. And what that means is some of the essential oils have very large molecules. That's the sesquiterpene. 15 carbons is what makes up this molecule. And we break it down into alcohols, into ethers. These are different functional groups. So I want you to think about maybe a set of blocks. That's your backbone. And then the functional group we're adding on would be like taking another block and changing it out. Maybe it's an orange block that you put onto your backbone. Maybe it's a red block. And each of these has a little bit different effect in changing the molecule. Next slide, please. We can think the same way about the monoterpene backbone. It has 10 carbons in it. So it's a little bit smaller, right? We went from 15 in the sesquiterpenes to 10 in the monoterpenes. Now, we have lots of examples of monoterpenes in our essential oils. In fact, probably the majority. These are the ones that are the most volatile. We smell them very strongly, very quickly. And again, we can break them up into functional groups. So these functional groups are really what are going to help define the activity of these molecules within the essential oil. So if you are interested in chemistry and you want to learn more about it, this chemistry wheel is a great place to start. Next slide, please. Now, one thing to keep in mind as you're looking at the chemistry of essential oils, make sure that you understand that the main component of the essential oil doesn't always represent the entire essential oil. I apologize, my computer is being kind of noisy. So for example, in the lemon essential oil, or wild orange, or grapefruit, or most of the citruses, there's a particular compound called limonene, and there's a picture of it here on the screen. Limonene is the main component of most of these citrus oils. It's what gives it that lemony, citrusy aroma. But that essential oil is more than just the limonene. And research has repeatedly shown that individual components like the limonene in these citrus oils doesn't work the same way as it does when it's with the whole oil. So keep that in mind too, as you might be reading scientific papers. They may be looking at a single constituent like limonene, but understand that when we're looking at a whole essential oil like lemon, there's a lot more complexity and a lot more opportunities for benefits. Okay, one more thing we'd like to talk about of why blends are so important, and then we'll actually get into the blending process and how you can start to do your own blends. Next slide, please. Okay, so if chemistry feels a little too complicated, another way to think about essential oils is their category. And we categorize essential oils according to their type. So we broadly group them as a floral oil, meaning they come from a flower, or wood oils, herbs, spices, citruses, and mints. These broad categories encompass the majority of our essential oils. And each of these categories has some similarities. So the floral oils, for example, they tend to be very soft and inviting. They tend to have lots of sesquiterpenes, so those larger molecules in them. And we tend to use them for emotional kinds of support. These citrus oils, these have a lot more monoterpenes, so things like limonene, and they're very similar in their chemistry. And you can tell that when you smell the citrus oils side by side. There's some similarities there. And then the differences come in those smaller molecules, and they're really good for enhancing the mood and for cleaning. Everything okay? You still hear me
Yes,
okay?
yeah, everything is fine.
Okay, perfect. I want to make sure we can still
Yes,
hear.
yes. All is fine.
Thank you. Okay, so we've gone over some evolutionary, potency, synergy, chemistry, and category reasons for why essential oil blends are so important and how doTERRA scientists go about thinking about blends, putting oils together in blends so that they have the benefits and the power that we're looking for. So I want you to keep these things in mind as we now go on to talk about the blending process. How is it that we as scientists and that you as a user of essential oils can begin to put essential oils together? So let me talk you through the process of how we think about blending essential oils, and then you can try this for yourself at home. So step one, think about the purpose of your essential oil blend. And we think about the purpose of any doTERRA essential oil blend that we do. We think about how will it be used by our people? What will the blend do? Will it be a blend for use in the daytime or in the nighttime? Do we want the blend to be relaxing or uplifting? Will it be used for adults or children specifically? Will it be for everyone? Is it specific maybe for women health benefits or for men? So think about what you want this blend to do and make sure that you have a purpose in mind so that can help guide your decisions throughout the rest of the blending process. Next slide. Okay, so then consider how will the blend be used? The application model is very important. Is this going to be an oil that will be used aromatically in a diffuser or right out of a bottle? Will this oil blend be used topically? Will it be rubbed on the skin? Some essential oils in some markets can be used internally. So it's important to consider which of these models you will use in creating your essential oil blend. Next slide, please. So doTERRA has some very important information available to you on the website, and it can help guide you in using, in knowing which oils to use in which blends. So take a look here, and you'll see some little letters in circles, and these indicate how the oil is intended to be used. So there are little symbols that can indicate whether it's an oil that's suitable for aromatic use, or topical use, or internal use. And in this case, lemon is suitable for all three. There's also another letter that can tell you whether it's okay to be used neat, meaning it can be put on the skin or on a surface without dilution. If it's an oil that's sensitive, meaning you should keep in mind this, if there's sensitive skin that will be involved in as you use this oil blend. Or dilute, which means you should definitely use it with some kind of carrier oil to dilute the essential oil blend. Now, another thing to keep in mind as you are using certain essential oils is to avoid sunlight when you're using some of the citrus oils. They actually can increase the skin's sensitivity to sun. So if you're making a topical blend, keep that in mind and make sure if you're including citruses that you protect your skin from the sun. So Look for essential oils that are specific to your purpose and to your application model. Those are the first 2 steps. Okay, so step 3, moving on. Next slide, please. Now you start to think about the aroma profile of the essential oil blend. How do you want this blend to smell? Now, I showed this image here because this reminds us about those categories we talked about, the spices, florals, mints, herbs, etc. And it indicates that there could be some very specific emotional benefits for using certain categories of essential oil. Now, there is some overlap here. So if you have a specific use of your blend in mind, look for different categories that might be helpful, and then feel free to choose something from that category. We have lots of florals. We have lots of different kinds of woods. So you can have some freedom in choosing the different kinds of oils that really fit the aroma profile that you're looking for. Each person will have a different response to an essential oil based on their genetics and their preferences and their past experience. So let me give you an example of that. Lavender oil. A lot of people love lavender oil and they use it in a lot of blends. I like lavender oil, but it's not my very favorite. So sometimes I will choose a different floral in place of lavender, and I will find those same benefits. So you think about the oils that you really like and the aromas that you really like, and find ways to incorporate those. But at the same time, don't be afraid to try new essential oils, because you might find as you blend and put those oils together, it will change the aroma, and you may find that you love an essential oil in a blend that you may not like as much by itself. Next slide, please. Okay, so now comes the fun part. You can make multiple blends in a process that's called iteration. And that just means you make a blend, you evaluate it, you see what you like about it, what you don't like about it, and you change it, and you make a new blend. And you do that process until you find just the right blend for you. Now, when we're here blending essential oils for a new doTERRA product, sometimes we go through hundreds of iterations, hundreds of them. And it takes sometimes just the tiniest tweak, the tiniest change in the essential oil blend that we have that makes a huge difference. So remember that too. Make small changes so that you can see as your blend goes along how it changes. Next slide, please. Once you get a blend that you like, now it's time to experiment a little bit with it. And here's some questions you can ask yourself. Does my blend fulfill the purpose that I set out to fill? Does it do what I want it to do? You can ask yourself, do I like the overall aroma? Does one particular component stick out? And is that good, or do I want a more balanced aroma? How do I feel when I smell this blend? Would I keep all the oils in the blend, or should I maybe swap one or more of them out? Do I need to increase or decrease the amounts of any oils in this blend? You can kind of do a checklist and ask yourself these questions as you're going through and evaluating your essential oil blend. Next slide, please. Now, finally, I would encourage you to let the blend sit for a little while and then come back to it. Sometimes as we allow the essential oil blend to sit, we encourage the components to meld together, and this changes the aroma. It's kind of like if you've ever made soup and then you've allowed your soup to kind of simmer, or you put it in the fridge and come back to it the next day. It's different. It's usually more rich and more complex because those flavors have all melded together. So thinking back to our discussion earlier about the top notes and the middle notes and the base notes, over time, these actually could change. So come back to your blends and evaluate and see which notes might come out and how you might want to alter the blend if you need to. Now, if this is a blend that's intended to be used topically, so on the skin, try some on the skin and see how it will smell on you. If you're not sure, and it's always safest to put it into a carrier oil so that as you put it on your skin, you can smell how it is, and you're limiting any possibility of reaction if your skin is sensitive. Each person's body chemistry will interact differently with the blend, so it's interesting to see how the blend might smell on different people. If your blend is an aromatic blend, try it in a diffuser or on a cotton ball or a diffusing disc. These are fun ways for you to test out your blend. If it's meant to be used for cleaning, you can put it in a spray bottle and try it on the cleaning surface and see how it works. But the point is, this is a process that continues over and over, and it really can be fun if you are excited about putting essential oils together and seeing what wonderful blends you can create. Next slide, please. Let me give you a few tips and tricks if you would like to try blending for yourself. You can have a few very simple tools that can help you in this blending process. I would recommend, if you can, to blend in glass vials or containers. This helps make sure that the essential oils don't interact with plastic. And it's okay if you need to use something plastic short term for your blending. If it needs to sit for a long time and you want to use it over time, definitely store it in a glass bottle. Beakers, flasks, vials, these are some of our favorite containers to use as we blend essential oils. And you can find very inexpensive small glass vials online. And you can also find little pipettes, little squeezable pipettes online that can be very helpful as you're counting out drops and blending your things together. Now there's a picture there as well of toothpicks. If you have access to toothpicks, sometimes you want to use an oil that's very, very strong. And you find that even one drop of that oil overwhelms your blend. We've had this happen before. In that case, you might try dipping the toothpick into the oil and then swirling that toothpick into your blend so you get a partial drop. That is really helpful for strong oils like oregano or thyme or even cinnamon, patchouli. These very, very strong base notes can benefit from a very tiny amount. So try that if you find that you're having one of your oils overwhelm the blend. Next slide, please. You can also this is a very fun technique that I will show you, and I hope that you get a chance to try it. These are strips that are called perfumer strips. And again, you can buy them online or you can make your own if you have thick paper or cardstock. Cut them into very thin strips and then dip these strips into your individual essential oils. So, for example, this person is holding multiple strips in their hand. If one strip were dipped in orange and one strip were dipped in lavender and one strip were dipped in cedarwood, for example, and all those strips were dipped in a different oil, you could then hold those strips near your nose like a bouquet and smell them, and it will give you an idea of what your blend will smell like. This is a great trick to use if you don't have very much essential oil and you don't want to make 50 different blends before you find the combination that you like. By dipping these papers, you use just a tiny amount of essential oil, but you can get an idea of what your blend will smell like. You can even hold some of the papers closer to your nose and some of the papers farther away from your nose to get an idea of how much oil should go in your blend. The ones that are closer to your nose, they should be in the higher amount in your blend. And the ones that are farther away from your nose, put in lower amount until you find the combination and the amounts that you want to try. So this is a fun technique we use often in the lab just to get a starting place. Next slide, please. Okay, so I am going to encourage you as a scientist, if you make your own blends, take good notes. That's really important. We have, most of the scientists working here at doTERRA have learned the hard way that if you don't write down what you put in your blend, you have a hard time reproducing it. And it's so sad when you find an absolutely beautiful, wonderful, amazing blend, and then you can't make it again. So be a scientist, write down the number of drops that you put into your blend and then the evaluation. So in this little example here, we wrote down the desired benefit. We wrote down some oil ideas of what I might like for a top note, for a middle note, for a bottom note. And this is, again, just a starting place, but it helps you organize your thoughts and get ready to make a blend. Then for my first iteration, I tried 2 drops of each of those things. Let's just start somewhere. I could start with my paper strips too if I wanted to. In this case, I just started with the oil drops. And then I did an evaluation of that oil blend. What did I think? Oh, it had too much herbal notes. I had to reduce my basil. So in my next iteration, I tried less basil and more spearmint. And then I wrote down the evaluation of that. It's still not quite right. It needs a woody note. So I'm going to try adding a little bit of frankincense. So on my next iteration, I wrote down what I did there and the process would continue. So we have a little, I think, a copy of this worksheet that I'm happy to share and have sent out later. Or you can just kind of write this down in your notebook. Any kind of notebook is great, but keep good notes. I'll encourage you that way. If you find a blend you absolutely love, you know exactly how to make it again. Next slide, please. Okay, so with all these ideas in mind, all of that background about why blends are important, and all of these steps and ideas about how you can blend, I would love to take just a minute and share a few of my favorite DIY, do-it-yourself recipes. Now, I encourage you to experiment with blends of your own. Try out some new blends for supporting health, for encouraging a healthy home, for looking your best. So I'm going to give you a few of my favorites. And try these if you'd like to, or change them, change out one or more of the oils, or make your own. But here's how I look at it. And again, I like to make fairly simple blends. I don't like to have 10 or 15 oils in my blend. I usually do 3 to 5 oils. It's a little bit easier to control and I can still get lots of great benefits. So here's a simple one to start with. I love making bath salts. So I buy a bag of Epsom salt, just plain Epsom salt in the store, very inexpensive. And I use these salts in taking a warm bath at the end of the day, in the evening before bed. It really is great for relaxing, for refreshing the skin. And one of my favorite grounding types of blends for the bath includes spearmint, cedar wood, or really any wood that you like, and eucalyptus. So I'll take a cup or 2 of Epsom salt and I'll put it into a reclosable bag and I'll add 1 drop of each of these oils and then I'll mix the whole thing together. When you open that bag back up, it's just this amazing, clean, smooth, uplifting aroma. And I put that right into the warm bath and it's a wonderful experience. It's one of my favorites. I make some of this for my husband as well. He loves to take baths. And I'll come into our bathroom and I can smell the essential oils coming up from the bath, and he just loves that. Now, again, remember, if there are any skin sensitivities, be sure to start very slowly and make sure you're paying attention to how the skin is reacting and make sure that everything is looking okay. A little bit goes a very long way. Okay, next slide, please. Here is one of my favorite essential oil blends that I actually use on my hair. Now, I live in a desert, really, really dry, and my hair is curly, so it tends to be dry anyway. So I use this blend as a way to help moisturize and refresh my hair and my head. So this blend includes spearmint, peppermint, and rosemary. Now, all of these have benefits for the hair and for the scalp. You'll feel the cooling effects of the peppermint and the spearmint, and the rosemary can help promote a nice clean scalp. So on this blend, I include some jojoba fatty oil, and you can use any fatty oil you'd like, almond or grapeseed. These are great moisturizers that don't clog the pores, so that's important too. Now this spray could work really well as a moisturizing and refreshing spray for the skin as well if you don't like heavy lotion, but you like a little bit of moisturization. So for this blend, I usually put about a tablespoon or so of the jojoba oil into a 4-ounce glass spray bottle. And then I add about 5 drops each of the essential oils. You could do more or less if you wanted to, based on your needs. And then I fill the rest of the bottle with warm water and shake it up really well. And every time before you use it, you shake it up because the oils and the waters don't want to mix. But if you shake it and then you spray it, you will get that wonderful burst of essential oils and the moisturization from the fatty oil. And I love using this blend. I use something like this just about every day. Okay, how about one more? Next slide, please. Here's one of my favorite ones, and I use this one on my skin and my cuticles, especially at night. It really works well as a lip balm too. So I'm in the dry desert air, so I have to moisturize quite a bit. And this mixture is great in little empty lip balm tubes for easy portability and application, or you can put it into a little pot if you want to apply larger amounts to places like your elbows or your heels or dry spots. Now, I like to combine whole coconut oil. So that's the solid white fatty oil that smells, like coconuts. I'll add some cocoa butter, olive oil, and some pellets of beeswax. And you can leave the beeswax out if you are vegan, but it does help give some nice body to the mixture. And some I already mentioned olive oil. Okay, so coconut oil, cocoa butter, olive oil, and beeswax. About a tablespoon of each of these. And you can play around with those proportions until you get a texture that you like. But I put these into a glass container and I warm them gently until everything kind of melts together and it makes this single mixture. I let this cool just a little bit until it begins to solidify again, and it will solidify at room temperature. Give it some time. At that point, I add the essential oils. I don't want to add it too soon or else they will just all evaporate back out. I want to keep in as much essential oils as I can. So for this blend, I like to include ylang ylang, or any flower that you love is great. Wild orange, or any citrus that you like, and Douglas fir, or sometimes Roman chamomile too. These are all great and they're wonderful for moisturization, okay? Now the wild orange, this is one that is not sensitizing to the sun. So this is why I like to choose it in a lotion that I'm going to put on my skin. I mix these oils into the fatty oil mixture and I pour it into the little pots or the lip balm tubes, okay? And again, you can get these online. They're very inexpensive. I let it solidify completely and then I rub it on anywhere. I'm holding right now a tube that I made with my daughter, and it has this blend inside of it, and I use it as my chapstick, my lip balm. And something else fun you can do with this particular recipe is add other botanicals. and they not only look beautiful, but they might have additional aromatic and topical benefits. So for example, I love adding some finely chopped rosemary or some dried lavender that you can kind of crumble up. In this particular lip balm that I made with my daughter, we added some vanilla bean seeds. Oh my goodness, it made the blend so yummy. Or you can also add a pinch of cinnamon powder or other spices. It makes the blends really look and smell even more lovely. So get creative with these. There are lots of ways that you can make beautiful, functional blends that are just full of benefits for you and your family. Next slide, please. I want to thank you again for joining with me today. And I hope that you have learned something that you're excited to try. Some new oils you might want to gain some experience in and try blending. I want you to have confidence in the power of the blends that doTERRA offers as products. They have been scientifically blended and validated, and they are amazing. And each of the essential oils, of course, at the very foundation is a pure, potent doTERRA oil that's gone through all the testing, and we have confidence that they are the very best essential oils in the world. So if you love your oils, maybe you can have the adventure of blending up some of your own blends for personal enjoyment and for health benefits. And I hope that you have a great time doing so. Thanks again. It's been such a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you, Nicole, for being with us. It was so exciting information, and we see a lot of questions in the chat, which people are writing to us. And of course, everyone excited to try this magic of blending. And thank you a lot for your self-care recipes and for your experience. I'm sure it's so useful for everyone. So now I want to ask my colleagues who was writing down the questions, just if we have 10 minutes to reply it.
Yes, please. That would be great.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Thank you. Liana, can you hear us?
Yeah, hi, Nicole.
Hello.
My name is Liana, and we have some questions for you. First of all, we have a question. What do you think about using lemon oils all the time, like regularly?
I think lemon oil is definitely one of the most versatile essential oils that we have. If you are using it on the skin all the time, you'd probably want to use a carrier oil just so your skin didn't become sensitive to it. A lot of people do put a drop into their water, at least in the United States. They put a drop into their water and drink it that way. And there's good research showing that that can be very beneficial. And aromatically, definitely. I have this in my diffuser almost every day. So I think lemon is one of the oils that you could use every day and find great health benefits in.
Okay, next question will be, what oils we need to blend to achieve determination? They want to be determined.
Ah, that's a great question. I would say for that one, the spices are going to be one of your best categories to look in. So when I'm looking for a blend that I want to help feel determined and brave and confident, I look to cinnamon, black pepper, some of the wood oils that are very powerful. Like I personally really like arbor vitae, if you guys have that one. And I sometimes will go into the category of the citruses as well. So if you're familiar with the Motivate blend that doTERRA has, it is very strongly of spices and citruses. So stick to that category, and I think you'll have a great blend that can help you feel determined.
Okay, next one is there any proportions? How many oils we need to blend at once? And if we're talking about 10 milliliters, how many drops we need to put?
Okay, great question. So the proportions will definitely depend on how you want your final blend to smell. I mentioned I will typically have a blend that's maybe 3 to 5 different essential oils, just so that it's easier to control and kind of understand. It doesn't get too complicated. If I were to have a 10 milliliter roller bottle, for example, and I were making a blend to roll onto my skin, I would probably have about 20 drops worth of essential oil in that bottle, and then fill the rest with the carrier oil. So fractionated coconut oil or olive oil or whatever other carrier you wanted to use. So if I had 5 oils, 4 drops of each maybe, and I would put that into the roller bottle, and then I would fill the rest with the fatty oil. So again, play with your essential oil blend first, and then you can add about 20 drops worth into a roller bottle and play around with that. If it's not quite as strong as you want it, add a little bit more. If it's too strong, like you're doing a blend for a child, for example, you'd maybe even want to do less than that. So depends a lot on what your blend is and what it's going to be used for.
Mm-hmm. Next question, where can we get the recipes how to use DIY blends?
That's a good question. I would have to ask the team over there if I could send them some information and then they could make it available. Is that something we could possibly do?
Okay. Can we use tea tree like drinking?
That's a good question.
By drinking, yeah.
Yeah, that is one that we typically recommend for using topically or aromatically. You know, it is on, over in the US, it is on the FDA's list that it's considered generally safe for internal use. So it can be, but we typically recommend it for topical or aromatic rather than internal.
Okay. What about orange photosensitivity?
Yes, good question. Orange oil is one of the few citrus oils that does not have those photosensitizing compounds in it. So just to make it easier for everyone to understand, we just typically have people in their minds think about citrus oils and avoid using them in the sun. So that's probably the easiest way to just kind of avoid any problems. But orange oil, that one does not have the chemicals to create this sensitivity. So it is one of the oils that I do like to use in my personal care blends the most.
Mm-hmm. What oils can we not blend? Like in a way of it's like forbidden.
What oils can we not blend? Can you say that last part again?
Yeah. What oils can we not blend together?
Gotcha. You know, there's really no oils that you can't blend together. It's a matter of what kind of aromas do you like. Most of the essential oils, you can blend them together. It's just they don't always smell very good when you blend them together. Let me give you an example. I don't personally like to blend spikenard very much with, say, the citruses. I don't think it's a very good combination, but for someone that might smell amazing. So again, it's kind of a matter of seeing what you like and blending together pretty much any of the essential oils.
Mm-hmm. And what oils do you recommend for men? Like maybe some aromas or something, but specifically for men.
Yes. That is a great question. For men, we typically focus on woods and mints and citruses typically, and some herbs too, but our favorite things for men is if you try a blend of woods and mints together, that is amazing. It's very clean and not too feminine. That's something that we do think about. Some aromas are more associated with kind of a feminine, like florals. So we don't typically use a lot of florals in men blends, but sandalwood and cedarwood and arbor vitae are excellent for men to use. The mints are great. And then any citruses if you wanted kind of a top note to make it a little bit brighter. That's where we typically start when we're doing a men's blend.
Okay, can we drink water with lemon in summer?
Definitely, you know, if it's not, I'm not sure what the rules of your market are, but I'll speak from the perspective of the US market here, because I know that we have a lot of people here who do add a drop of water, of lemon oil to their water, and they drink that, you know, several times a day, and it can have some great health benefits to you. So yes, I would say on that.
And again, can we use a blend adaptive during the sun, like the summertime?
Great question. I believe, I'm going to grab my adaptive really quick because I'm going to look and make sure. But I do believe that because that has orange oil and not the other citruses in it, that it is safe to use. I would recommend in general to protect skin from the sun, because it's important to avoid, you know, skin cancer and things like that. So definitely I would not recommend for anyone to just go out in the sun and get burned. But if you're using adaptive, you should be safe if you do have some sort of sun exposure.
Okay, and also about the summer, because obviously our people are very into summertime. Which oils we can use to protect from the sun?
That is a great question. Most of the essential oils that we know do not offer sun protection on their own. So there are a few that may have a few units of sun protection factor, so the SPF like you'd see in a sunscreen, but not enough to depend upon. So I would still recommend a regular sunscreen if you're going to go out into the sun. And I will usually use the essential oils after I've been outside all day, and they're great for helping kind of soothe the skin if I'm feeling hot or I have been outside. And that's where I might use lavender or frankincense in some water and just mist it over and help cool me down.
Okay. And again, about, wait a second.
Я вижу, что вам понравилось, очень здорово. Согласитесь, что презентация просто потрясающая у нас сегодня. Thank you, Николь, и спасибо еще раз, Николь, которая наше сегодняшнее мероприятие сделала таким прекрасным. Ну, а мы, в свою очередь, хотим добавить этот день сюрпризами и дать вам возможность смешивать масла, то, что говорила Николь, даже если вы в доTERRA совсем-совсем недавно. Мы сегодня хотим запустить и предложить вам наш новый набор из 3 масел для начинающих, масла по 15 мл, которые точно помогут новичкам создавать такие прекрасные бленды, о которых Николь нам сегодня рассказала. Я думаю, что вы сможете с помощью этих 3 масел, с помощью такого замечательного набора, с помощью этой специальной цены, и вы, и ваши покупатели, и ваши клиенты, ваша семья, вы сможете воспользоваться этим замечательным предложением. Поэтому прекрасная новость для всех, кто с нами сегодня. С сегодняшнего дня на рынке Россия ОТГ этот набор станет регулярным, и мы будем постоянно его предлагать как раз для тех, кто хочет купить 3 самых популярных масла. Помните, Николь говорила о том, как использовать каждое из них. Я уверена, теперь вы это знаете. Вот такой замечательный набор будет на рынке ОТГ Россия. Ну и еще одна очень долгожданная для вас, я знаю, вещь. Теперь, когда вы уже умеете смешивать эфирные масла, я уверена, что будете практиковать и делать свои рецепты, да, так, как мы сегодня научились, мы подготовили для вас замечательный логотип доTERRA wellness-консультанта. Он в хорошем качестве, в хорошем разрешении, в нескольких вариантах, в профессиональном формате, который вы можете использовать для своих любых материалов и также отдавать в печать, если вам это нужно, да, создавая какие-то свои материалы. Он будет доступен в нескольких вариантах. И еще визитки wellness-консультанта доTERRA, они тоже будут доступны в нескольких вариантах для вас. И все это будет на нашем официальном сайте. Вы сможете этим легко воспользоваться в разделе «Консультантам», «Материалы», «Бизнес» и «Визитки» и «Шаблоны». Но все, о чем мы сегодня говорили, мы непременно поместим обязательно в наш чат Telegram. Я еще раз сейчас скину ссылочку, не знаю, все ли вы там есть или нет. Вижу вопросы про запись, запись постараемся, чтобы была. Вот, но мы пока не знаем, запишет ли Zoom перевод. То есть пока мы никогда не записывали с переводом, поэтому запишем, да, мы записали встречу, но не уверены по поводу перевода, поэтому здесь, ну, может быть, будет перевод, да, может быть, наш замечательный переводчик, который сегодня с нами работал, да, может быть, запишется, может быть, нет. Без перевода, Лор, будет. Без перевода будет, здесь это можем сказать точно, мы встречу записываем. Но вот с переводом, к сожалению, обещать не можем, потому что пока мы этого не знаем. И я хочу всех вас попросить, кто сегодня был здесь, я уже по вашим комментариям видела, что вам очень понравилась наша сегодняшняя встреча, но очень бы хотелось на будущее, чтобы мы понимали, какие темы вам интересны, да, о чем вам интересно слушать. Мы очень хотим вас попросить, чтобы вы заполнили коротенький буквально отзыв на наше сегодняшнее мероприятие. Мы будем очень рады увидеть вашу обратную связь по ссылочке, которую мы приложили. И благодарим вас всех, что вы сегодня здесь были. Еще раз благодарим Николь за потрясающую абсолютно встречу, за интересную информацию и за то, что сегодня она смогла присоединиться, она находится в поездке, но тем не менее она присоединилась для того, чтобы мы с вами могли узнать вот такую замечательную информацию о силе блендов, да, и о том, как их смешивать. И на нашем канале Telegram мы будем держать вас в курсе о следующих мероприятиях. В ближайшее время расскажем о них. Вижу огромную благодарность переводчику, огромную благодарность нашему сегодняшнему спикеру. Спасибо вам, что вы были с нами, и очень приятно вас видеть. Я очень надеюсь, что скоро мы сможем увидеться вживую. Спасибо вам огромное. Ждите от меня запись, ждите от меня материалы, все, что мы сможем вам предоставить, мы обязательно сделаем. Да, спасибо Николь и Ренату, потому что именно они нашу сегодняшнюю встречу сделали потрясающей, сделали незабываемую. Рецепты на английском, Марин, не знаю точно, где можно посмотреть, но, как я сказала, запись на английском мы точно оставим, вы сможете перемотать потом и вот эти вот рецепты взять. Спасибо всем огромное. Thank you again, Николь. Очень потрясающая встреча, и до новых встреч, будем очень ждать вас на следующих вебинарах.